uncertain about the care that's right for you or your loved ones? I'm Cindy Ferris, the owner of Ray of Sunshine. Stick with us for a few minutes while we discuss if assisted living is the right choice for you. You may or may not be aware that assisted living actually has a pretty large upfront investment. There are, of course, some move-in fees, those types of things. And then depending upon how invested you are in the move, you can actually sell private homes, residences, all of those types of things. So it's a good idea to really look at the facility and make sure that it's a good choice for you and your family. So first, let's briefly go over what is an assisted living and what do they do. So an assisted living is known as a residential care community. So you are going to actually reside in the facility. They can be very large facilities with 100+ residents, or depending upon where you are, there may be smaller, like neighborhood-based assisted livings that may have anywhere from 3 to 10 residents. So that is one consideration, what type of an assisted living works for you. And then assisted livings, especially the larger ones, can be what I call multifaceted. They have an assisted living side frequently, and then they have a smaller specialized memory care unit. So if there is any history of dementia in the family, that's definitely something to consider. So at an assisted living facility, you're going to have room and board, so you'll have meals, you'll have activities. There is transportation, but there can be some limits to that. Transportation can get a little more difficult if you or your loved one declines, has some pretty severe mobility issues. And then transportation, it's generally one transportation vehicle, small bus that is used for doctor's visits, for events, for activities, those types of things. So you may find some time limits on the transportation services also. One plus about a larger facility is that they tend to have a few more activities if that is of interest. They have things like church services in-house. They have sometimes contracted doctors that come in, do either regular visits or they may do specialty visits. Like I know a large assisted living very close to us has a podiatrist come in. They have, of course, a lot of them have flu shot clinics. They were able to get some other vaccine clinics, those types of things. So it really depends upon the individual, your anticipated needs, and you can't know what the future holds. So the smaller facilities, of course, will have a lower staff to resident ratio. You can be in some of these facilities with 4 or 5 people. There is always one staff member there at least. And so you really have a worst case, you have a like 1 to 3, 1 to 5 resident ratio, where with the large facility, it is obviously not that. So on the flip side, if you do need help with personal services like bathing, bathroom assistance, there can be longer waits in the large facilities. So I am familiar with assisted living care in primarily 2 states. I've had family members in both states. In both instances, both the large and the small facilities are state regulated and state licensed. So that is obviously a plus, something you're looking for. And then it was very interesting with one family member. He was ready for assisted living. He really embraced it. He made a lot of friends. He was very happy that the meals were provided. He had a small menu. Most of the larger facilities will have a menu you can order off of. There's a couple of specialties every day, and then there's some standards. Now, the other family member, while it was very good initially, she was very social, made a lot of friends, but she found in particular the dining limitations very frustrating. She did not like to be told when she needed to eat. And there's a very small time frame. If you don't miss it, or if you don't get there in time, you miss it, but yet you're paying for it. And then if it is a facility that includes 3 meals a day, obviously you're going to miss lunch if you go on events, if you're at doctor's appointments, those types of things. And so she found those limitations very frustrating and actually moved out once her lease was up. Now, we weren't in a position where we were selling a residence and stuff, so it did not impact us as much, but obviously there were some upfront fees moving into the facility that we did not get back once we left after a year. So those are a couple of considerations too about the personality, and not only the personality now, but what will happen in the future. Assisted living, you see the commercials, it's like a wonderful one-stop solution, but as I mentioned before, they're licensed. So they're going to have requirements that you have to be able to evacuate the facility in X amount of time. So if you're going into an assisted living facility with a progressive disease, say Parkinson's, where mobility can be impacted, ask some questions. We've had clients that are in assisted living with progressive diseases, but you notice I'm saying we as a home care company have had that, because you may come to a point where you can't meet the state mandated evacuation times requirements. And so if you don't meet those requirements, you can, one, move to another facility. You're likely looking at a smaller facility because you would not have to travel as far to evacuate. Or two, you can bring in private help and pay that on top of your assisted living fees. Another key thing is if you have any history of dementia in your family with behavioral issues. Obviously you're in a facility with other residents. You can't act out, even wondering if you wander at night, get lost, go into other people's rooms. Those can all create issues. And once again, you can be faced with, you can move or you can get private care. So there are levels you can move throughout. There is increasing care, but they have state regulations they have to meet. So it is not always a one and done solution. And that I don't think really, obviously, is not advertised. You're not aware of that. We actually weren't aware of that when our first family member went into assisted living. And we had a few behavioral issues as they moved into the dementia stage. And we were actually faced with that thing that, we need to get this under control, or you need to start looking for a different facility. Well, you've been there for 5 years. You don't want to look for another facility at this point. So luckily, we were able to resolve it. We got with our doctor. We got a little bit of additional equipment in. There was actually some chronic pain issues that weren't being communicated because the loved one was not very verbal at that time, and so we got a hospital bed. And that made it easier for him to, one, sleep at night, get in and out, get to meals, and those types of things. And luckily for us, the behaviors calmed down a lot with that. But there's not always an easy solution. So assisted living can absolutely be a great option if you want to learn more about either that or alternatives to assisted living. Feel free to check out our website at rosdfw.com.